From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, let's take a look at the latest headlines. Israel's military hammers the Gaza Strip from air, sea, and land as the war shows no signs of dissipating. The IDF says raids in Rafa and central Gaza killed a number of militants. Chinese President Xi Jinping chairs the third plenum of the Communist Party with high-ranking members in attendance as the country's economy faces sluggish growth. Estonia's Prime Minister Kaja Kallas resigns to serve as the European Union's next High Representative for Foreign Affairs, succeeding Joseph Borrell. Voters in Rwanda line up at the polling stations to elect their next president. 66-year-old Paul Kagame is expected to extend his rule after nearly 25 years in power. And British fashion label Burberry replaces its CEO Jonathan Ackroyd after the brand posted disappointing results. This comes as the luxury sector is facing weak demand. We begin with the latest on the Trump assassination attempt. President Joe Biden addressed the nation from the Oval Office and called for calm following the assassination attempt against his political rival and former President Donald Trump. On Saturday, the Republican presidential nominee was injured in his right ear after a gunman opened fire at a political rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, targeting the ex-president. During his address on Sunday, President Biden condemned all forms of political violence, saying the differences between Republicans and Democrats must be settled at the ballot box, not with bullets.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors, we're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're our fellow Americans. We must stand together. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump's wife and former First Lady Melania Trump broke her silence for the first time since the assassination attempt that killed one and critically injured two others. She took aim at the gunman, calling him a monster, and thanked Secret Service agents and other law enforcement for protecting Donald Trump. The former First Lady said, quote, "A monster who recognized my husband as an inhuman political machine attempted to wring out Donald's passion, his laughter, ingenuity, love of music, and inspiration," end quote. The 20-year-old gunman, who was shot dead by a sniper soon after attacking Trump, has been identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks. The Federal Bureau of Investigation said Crooks appears to have acted alone, and they're probing the assassination attempt under the Domestic Terrorism Act. Moreover, the U.S. Congress has demanded answers from Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheeto over the alleged security lapses at the rally. The House of Representatives Homeland Security Chair Mark Green has asked Cheeto to testify at a hearing on July 22nd. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson has promised a full investigation of what he called a tragedy to determine whether there were lapses in security that the American people must know. Meanwhile, the ex-president has landed in Milwaukee to take part in the 4-day Republican National Convention that begins today. He will formally accept the presidential nomination and deliver his acceptance speech this Thursday evening. And a day earlier, he's expected to announce his vice presidential pick as well. With 2,400 delegates and around 50,000 people in attendance in Milwaukee, the party, at least, is operating under business as usual, but in the wake of an unspeakable tragedy that unfolded Saturday night, a weary electorate and a nation on edge will be watching and hoping for calm and reason to prevail. Now, the FBI has identified 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks as the subject involved in the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. The story behind Crooks is just as puzzling as the crime itself. Some say he was a loner who was bullied, while others describe him as well-liked by his teachers. But who exactly was Thomas Matthew Crooks, and what drove him to carry out such a drastic act? Our next report attempts to answer these probing questions.
The atmosphere was electric at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Thousands of supporters had gathered, waving flags and chanting slogans. Among the sea of faces was Thomas Matthew Crooks, a man whose presence would change the course of the event. Crooks, an unassuming figure away from the crowd, was positioned outside the event grounds on the rooftop of a manufacturing facility. He was oddly 118 meters away from the stage, where former President Donald Trump was speaking. The open-air setting at the Butler Farm Showgrounds provided the suspect a clear line of sight of his target. The sun dipped below the horizon as Trump's motorcade arrived. Security was tight, with Secret Service agents scanning the crowd for any signs of trouble. And as Trump took the stage, the energy in the crowd reached a fever pitch. Crooks held the semi-automatic AR-15 rifle, fingers closing in around the grip of the trigger.
Said, take a look at what happened.
At least 8 shots rang out. Donald Trump was saved by mere inches. Panic erupted as people screamed and scattered, trying to find safety. Secret Service agents swarmed and Trump was escorted to his vehicle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle, absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police are like, huh, what? You know, like they didn't know what was going on. You know, we're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. You know, he's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
That day, Thomas Matthew Crooks altered history. His identity was quickly revealed to the public, and when investigators combed through Thomas's life, they found little to explain his motives.
Definitely something you weren't expecting, it's kind of shocking. You wake up in the morning and your whole street's lined up and you're like, what the heck's even going on? And then you turn the news on and you're like, oh, dang.
He was an ordinary 20-year-old with no criminal record, no history of violence. Graduating from Bethel Park High School in 2022, Crooks was among more than a dozen students who received National Math and Science Initiative Star Awards worth $500. His classmates described him as a loner who struggled to find his place in the world.
He would sit alone at lunch. He was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're going to see someone like that and they're going to target him because they think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Often criticized for his dressing style, Crooks, as described by his former classmates, would dress in hunting attire. They say he was an outcast who was always alone.
He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance. Like they were just saying jeans. He'd wear hunting outfits sometimes. He would always wear a mask. Even after COVID, he wore a mask.
Crooks was also a member of the Clayton Sportsman Club for a year, where he honed his shooting skills. Investigators believe the weapon used for attempted assassination was purchased by his father. How a local nursing home kitchen worker turned a shooter has left investigators stunned with many unanswered questions. The community struggled to understand how a seemingly normal young man could harbor such intentions. Crooks' voting record showed him as a registered Republican, but he also donated $15 to a liberal campaign group, Act Blue, in 2021.
I mean, where is America going to now? Okay, I was talking to one other reporter, and I said, the country's been never so divided, okay? Everyone needs to go and take a step back, relax. If you have differences with a candidate, you do it at the voting booth, you know? You don't take action like this clown did, okay? If it happened to Biden, I'd be just as stunned. You know, because there's no need for that in our society like this.
The 20-year-old suspect was killed by a Secret Service sharpshooter. Several suspicious devices were found in Crooks' vehicle. Since he was carrying no ID, Crooks' identity was confirmed through DNA and facial recognition. Police and agencies are investigating his motive. His house, where he lived with his parents, was sealed. Bethel Park police said there was a bomb investigation surrounding his family home. How much time was spent in that planning remains the subject of an ongoing investigation. Police believe he acted alone, but they continue to investigate whether he was accompanied to the rally. Crooks is not just remembered for what he did, but for what he left behind. A trail of questions, a legacy of unanswered whys.
And moving to the Middle East, Israel says it has killed senior Hamas military commander Rafa Salama in an airstrike in Gaza on Saturday. But Hamas has yet to confirm his death. Now, the Israeli army says Salama was the commander of the Palestinian group's Khan Yunis brigade. He was also one of the masterminds of the October 7th attack that sparked the deadly war in Gaza. The Israeli strike also targeted the top commander of Hamas military wing, Mohammed Deif. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged that there is no certainty that Deif has been killed.
The state of Israel, through the IDF and the Shin Bet, attacked Gaza today with the aim of thwarting Mohammed Deif and his deputy, Rafa Salama. There is still no absolute certainty that the two have been eliminated, but I want to assure you that one way or another we will reach the top of Hamas. Mohammed Deif is a master of murders, the Hamas chief of staff, #2 in the chain of command, and was the planner and leader of the October 7th massacre and of many other terrorist attacks. His hands are stained with the blood of many Israelis.
Meanwhile, Hamas immediately rejected the claim that Deif was in the area when the Israeli military launched its massive airstrike. A Hamas official said that the top commander was still alive and well and continues to oversee operations. Now, according to the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, at least 141 people have been killed in Israeli strikes since Saturday, including children. Nearly 400 people have been wounded in the attacks on the refugee camps where tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians are sheltering.
They told us to go to the Mawasi area of Khan Yunis and that it is a safe area. I swear there is no safety. There is not in all of Gaza. There is no safety. Safety is with God. If God takes us all, then we will be able to relax. The safest area is with God.
I heard the first hit, and my son came screaming, "Daddy, Daddy," and took cover with me. and my daughter was next to me. I said, "Don't be afraid," and I hugged her. The second hit, I hugged them both together. The third hit, we did not know where we were. I woke up and found myself in the hospital. My son was martyred immediately. His blood came on my neck and clothes. Thank God.
Now, the displaced residents in Gaza say they don't trust the Israeli designated safe zones and that these safe zones are in fact a trap.
We were displaced 3 times. Every time we moved to an area they called a safe area, there was bombing and they said, "Leave." 3 times. Is displacement to a safe area a trap? I have come to consider the safe zone is a trap, and they say we are staying away from civilians. No, they are only targeting civilians.
Meanwhile, the ceasefire negotiations being held in Egypt and Qatar have ended without any fruitful outcome. And amid the ongoing talks, Netanyahu has ordered the Israeli forces to continue bombarding Gaza's al-Mawazi area to eliminate Hamas members. Now, all of this comes as Hamas has accused Netanyahu of blocking a ceasefire with heinous massacres. And contradictory reports have emerged over the Palestinian group's decision of pulling out of Gaza's truce talks. And now, shifting focus to Latin America, the political race in Venezuela is heating up. The country goes to the polls in less than 15 days from now. Incumbent President Nicolas Maduro is seeking re-election and is campaigning in full swing. The president is leaving no stone unturned to make sure he secures a win in the highly anticipated July 28th election. He's also the first candidate that the voters will see on the ballot, and not once or twice, but a whopping 13 times. So he's certain to catch the voters' attention. Venezuela's electoral rules allow for pictures of candidates to appear on the ballots as many times as the number of parties that support them. These pictures appear on both electric voting systems in Venezuela and the printed ones for those voting abroad. This year's ballot has 38 pictures, out of which 13 are that of Nicolas Maduro. He takes up the entire first of the ballot's 4 rows, while the rest of the candidates' photos, including that of former diplomat Edmundo González Urrutia, the only contender who appears competitive, appear below. Now, to be clear, Venezuelan voters are used to seeing many candidates on the electronic screens, but for some, and especially first-time voters, the photos could be confusing. Now, around 17 million Venezuelans are eligible to vote in this month's election, and the Latin American country is facing its toughest electoral test in decades. President Nicolas Maduro is seeking a 3rd term and 6 more years in power. Now, during his time in office, he's overseen the collapse of the oil-rich economy and been accused of running a repressive government. He's also been accused of threatening, harassing, and assaulting civil society actors, journalists, unionists, and other critics. The opposition say around 40 political and social activists have been arrested so far this year. And for years, opposition leaders in Venezuela simply boycotted elections they saw as rigged. But as Maduro's popularity continues to drop, his former rivals have joined hands in an attempt to change the government. Maduro accuses the opposition of conspiring against him. In 2018, his re-election was rejected as illegitimate by the West and other Latin American countries. Now, a confident Maduro has declared a crushing victory in the 2024 election, but opposition candidate González Urrutia currently leads in opinion polls. Many Venezuelans fear the government will not recognize a victory by the opposition, but if the opposition does in fact succeed, it would end the Socialist Party's 25-year rule in Venezuela. And finally, from Germany, in a decisive move to prevent any associations with extremist symbols, the northern German city of Bremen has banned the use of the silent fox gesture in classrooms. This gesture, commonly used by teachers to signal silence, closely resembles the wolf salute associated with the far-right Turkish Grey Wolves group. Authorities in Bremen argue that the potential for misinterpretation necessitated the ban, as they want an inclusive and non-threatening educational environment. Here's our final report with the latest.
Disney and Pixar's 2020 film Soul left a lasting impression on people. Its heartfelt themes and the message of finding meaning in life resonated with the viewers. One element that gained wide popularity through the film was the silent fox hand signal, also known as the quiet coyote. This gesture is widely used by teachers to signal silence in classrooms. However, it has now become the center of controversy in Germany. Bremen, a city in northern Germany, has become the first to issue an all-out ban on the use of the silent fox gesture. Authorities say that the silent fox bears resemblance to a far-right Turkish gesture known as the wolf salute, which is used to symbolize pan-Turkism and Turkish nationalism. The wolf salute is the symbol of the Grey Wolves. It's a right-wing extremist group with an estimated 20,000 members in Germany. The group is known for its hardline nationalist and Islamist views. They also have a history of terrorism, including bomb attacks, as well as an assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II in 1981. This gesture involves posing the hand to resemble an animal, with upright ears with the use of the little and forefinger, and a closed mouth made by the middle fingers pressed against the thumb. While educators have widely used it to command silence, its similarity to the extremist symbol has led to its prohibition. Germany is home to around 3 million ethnic Turks. They make up the country's largest single ethnic minority. And they also form the largest Turkish diaspora globally. The wolf salute gained international attention recently during the Euro 2024 football championship held in Germany. Earlier this month, a Turkish player, Meri Demiral, used it to celebrate a goal. The action sparked diplomatic tensions, with German officials condemning the use of the symbol as a platform for racism. The symbol is not banned in Germany, but its neighbours Austria and France banned it in 2019 and 2020 respectively. However, Demiral's gesture led to a significant backlash. It led to a two-match ban on the player by the European Football Championship organisers. Turkish President Erdogan defended Demiral's use of the gesture. He argued that it was a show of excitement rather than a political statement. He criticized the ban on the footballer as biased. In response to these events, Patricia Brandt, a spokesperson for Bremen's education authority, stated that the city had to act due to the gesture's political implications. She also said that many educators consider the concept outdated. Symbols are complex in nature. They have a high potential for misinterpretation in an increasingly polarized world. As Germany grapples with these issues, the conversation around symbols and their meanings continues to evolve.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.
Former U.S. President Donald